Hello and welcome Strategy Battle Gamers to the GBHL podcast. Here with your host GBHL Jamie, and as you may know, James is over in New York on holiday, so it's just me this week. I couldn't find any friends to come and do this show with me, so it's just me. So I apologise. I've decided I'm not going to do my hobby in this week because it didn't really get much anywhere. But Thorin's company have progressed before we get going. So Dory's been done. Nori has been painted. So Dory, Nori, Ori is also done. And Biffa and Bofa, or Bofa, Bomba or Biffa, I'm not sure which one it is. They've been done as well, and so that leaves me with just 4 more to go for the rest of Thorin's company. They're over there, that's why I was looking that way. But it is a big fan question, so I will kick off. Starting off, we've got Drusif the Gamer. He says, thanks guys, my question this week, what is, in your opinion, the most good looking model in the SPG range? In other words, what would most excite you to paint right now? Drusif's currently painting a Gundabad Orc Captain, which he thinks is a great model, so I'm just curious as to what my thoughts are. Best model to paint. That's a tricky one. I think any of the Gandalf models are good. I'm quite looking forward to getting to paint the Thorin's company again, to be honest. That's what I am painting. Painting sort of Gloin and Co. That'd be cool. Thank you for your question. Next up, we got Tom Turtle. He says, finally got my hands on a sealed Finecast clamp pack of Boromir of the White Tower. How do you think I should assemble him? Tom prefers the shield and sword look, but love the banner in game. Also, do I need to model a lance onto the mounted version if I want him to be equipped with one? Obviously, a lance is a must, but I don't particularly want to spoil the rare model. And then Saruman the White said, put the banner on his back. LOL. XD face. How did I assemble mine? I assembled mine. I got mine in metal, and I've assembled mine without the banner because I probably won't use it in game because he can't have a shield and he can't have a lance whilst he's got it. Shush phone. So yeah, I would suggest sword and shield, and whilst you technically should model the lance onto him, I'm sure if you explain to your opponents why you didn't want to model it and potentially ruin it, then they would fully understand. That's your question, Tom. Next up, we've got Daniel Theory. He says, consider me stuck, and I assume he means the loop. He says, thank you for your advice. I was thinking of aiming at Barlin to lead my dwarf force. Glad to see I may not be out of touch with the hobby. I should, by the time you read this, have also painted all my Minas Tirith forces, repainted to a very decent standard. And will have played a few games with a friend of mine, elves versus dwarves. So my question this week is, what are some fun, simple scenarios to use first before moving into the bigger ones like Capture the Hill style thing? Also, in reply to a question asked, I'd say it takes me about an hour to batch paint about 10 warriors, and then an hour, all in all, for a hero, give or take details. Happy hobbying one and all. So question there, what are some fun, simple scenarios to use before first moving onto the bigger ones? I think a good one is Lords of Battle is quite a fun, simple scenario to play. So the objectives are quite simple to track, and it's good fun just killing things. Similarly, To the Death is a simple scenario to play because it's just essentially a pitched battle, and that'll do. Thanks for your question, Daniel. Next up, we've got George Arnold. He says, my question for this week is, do you think the Hobbit hobby is becoming more or less popular? Also, what are the projects you're currently working on? I'm working on a Númenórean army. It'll be cool to see the Númenórean army. Be sure to post it in the Great British Hobbit League Facebook page so that everyone can comment on it. What projects am I currently working on? Well, as you will have seen 2 weeks ago, and I've just shown you, Thorin's company is my project at the moment. Then after them, I don't really have anything in particular, but I'll probably continue working on the Age of Sigmar stuff. And do I think the Hobbit hobby is becoming more or less popular? I think it is definitely becoming more popular, as people are finding out about it just through it's becoming sort of known in the Guild Ball community that there is a Hobbit community, and it's sort of seeping its way through into other gaming systems. So I definitely think the Hobbit hobby is more popular though it's really not yet reached the height of its popularity like it did previously. Next up, we've got David Whitaker. He says, "Sup guys, I know you love lists. So here's a Minas Tirith list, which is currently my top contender for Throne of Skulls. Faramir, heavy armour, horse and lance, with 5 knights with shields. Kyrian with 7 warriors with spear and shield. Denethor with 6 Citadel Guard with spears and 4 Fountain Court Guard with shield. Cool, that you've only got 4 in there, there's a reason for that. Damrod with 6 rangers, 4 with spear. And 4 rangers with spear, sorry. And Baragon with 6 Citadel Guard with longbows, 600 points. That is actually a really cool list. You got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heroes, all very sort of themey. And yeah, you got a nice mix of troops. That is a pretty cool list. I would be happy to play that at 600 points at Throne of Skulls. Because since I'm bringing Thorin's company, and oh no, you'd definitely kill me with shooting. But it'd be a good fun game regardless. Next up, we got King Banzai. He says, "Thanks for the answers. I've painted Grimhammers and was assembling Warriors of Erebor while listening. I think some more should have armour, but otherwise, I think they have little need for converting. Also, what is your guys' opinions of banners and how many are good at different points levels? I think 1 per warband seems excessive. However, it would mean my entire shield and spear wall would get rerolls, so I am drawn to that. Thanks from King Banzai." So I'm glad you got some painting done, and I think the Warriors of Erebor do lack a bit of armour. I think they should be more sort of tooled up. And as for banners, I would only take 1 per army. I wouldn't even think of 1 per warband. 1 per army, regardless of points levels. I mean, if you take the King's Champion in your Dwarf list, then you get 2 essentially free ones there. But yeah, that's my thoughts on banners. Just the 1's needed. 2 is a little bit excessive. You're sinking too many points into things. Next up, we've got Al Wood. He says, "Back in the loop, guys. Hello, Al. It's been a while." He says, "I'm going to Throne of Skulls, and I hope to get to Stockport too." Fantastic news. We should have an announcement for Desolation of Stockport. I believe SBG have announced theirs, that SBG issue 3 is likely to be released at the Desolation of Stockport. So if you want to get your hands on the first hard copies, then come on to Desolation of Stockport, and I'm waiting for a delivery to make my next announcement. Al says, "I was shocked to hear, Jamie and Mark, that you hadn't watched The Longest Day. You've got to be kidding me. You really need to watch it, as it is a classic. Well, if it's on Netflix or American Netflix, then I will get around to it eventually, I'm sure." Tom Turtle says, "Palace Guard should be your next project, Jamie." Well, I do have a box, but I'm just not drawn to them at all, sorry. Saruman the White says, "I can confirm Mark Furness is a scrub. 2 points he got. James and Jamie are still tied for a draw, however." Did you say Australia was crap, mate? I'll wreck you. I'll wreck you. Since there was no definitive winner, time for a second match. This is the trivia section. Question 1. What is the age that an average Australian can obtain their kangaroo license? Question 2. Platypus looks like a mix of what 2 animals? Otter and duck. I don't believe in the kangaroo license though. Question 3. Koala's diet consists mainly of eucalyptus leaves. Question 4. Australia is home to the most amount of species of which animal? Deadly? I don't know, spider maybe? There seem to be tons of those things where you are. And question 5 is echidna a mammal? True or false? False. I don't know what an echidna is, so I'm going to say false. The winner receives the Crown of Australia. James, damn you and your conveniently placed Wi-Fi breaks. Lizzie Von Boy from Saruman the White there. Well, I'd like to know that. And I want to find out. I've answered already. Kangaroo license, I'm going to guess. If you're born there, you're born with one. Echidna. Oh, it's like a hedgehog. Is it a mammal? Yeah, it's one of the mammals that lay eggs. Oh, interesting. And kangaroo license. I can't bother waiting for next week. There's a kangaroo shooter's license, but yeah, just let us know about that one. I can't bother finding that. Next up, we've got Nano Dave 1980. He says, "Hello GBHL. My question for today is, if a good character is shooting at an evil character, but the character is behind a line of infantry, what type of test would you have to do for it to work? Basically, sniping a captain or named character. Also, now for that question, you'd take an in the way test. So typically it's a 4+ because it's a model for every model that would be in the way of the arrow's path. Also, now for my non-SPG question, what are your 3 favourite horror films? Mine are as follows. Number 1, An American Werewolf in London. 2nd, Original Nightmare on Elm Street. And 3rd, Original Friday the 13th. As always, keep up the good work. Thanks from Dave. Well, Nano Dave, I am a huge scaredy cat and do not like horror films at all. So, I don't even think I've watched 3 horror films. I remember watching some horror film called Shutter, which was horrific. Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a horror film, but Turn of the Screw was haunting for me. And I can't even think of a horror film. Anything that's psychologically sort of horror based is not good for me. No. Don't mind slashers, don't mind gore, but not psychological. Next up, we've got Andreas or the Norwegian Viking. He says, "No raiding, Jamie. That's half the reason I'm coming over this April. With the Throne of Skulls and doubles with Desolation of Stockport in the middle, I should just take a month off and stay in a pillaged monastery or something. But Throne of Skulls is sold out, and I guess it would not be the greatest thing to be away from work for a month. Probably not, but I'm glad you're coming to Desolation of Stockport. We'll make it a great one." He says, "Great Beasts are only 125 points, so I'm contemplating for Desolation of Stockport 2 Great Beasts, 2 Bat Swarms, a Taskmaster, and a Goblin Captain. But it's a while until I have to decide. Also, transporting 2 Great Beasts might be tough. Yes, I imagine getting them on the plane and keeping them safe on the journey over would be pretty tough." Next up, we've got Chris Murphy. He says, "Oi Jamie, you bigot. Just to let you know, a Fell Beast is still movement 12 without fly. My question is, what are your thoughts on siege weapons?" Well, I'm not sold on siege weapons. The only one I think is of any worth is the Dwarven Ballistae, as it works sort of a bit like a Sorcerer's Blast on a 4+ and knocks the target over, so knocks Fell Beasts over if it hits them, which all you need to do is roll that 4+, and with an Engineer Captain is a fantastic benefit to sort of just take out a Fell Beast in one hit, basically. Obviously, they're good against Smaug if they can roll that 6 because they've all got naturally high strength. But on the whole, I think the way that setup is in the current sort of world of SPG, that you can risk too often setting up in sort of that 12-inch range, or in the central 12-inch bit, and then you don't get to fire for as long as you might like. So yeah, I think siege weapons are a bit of a no-go for me, personally. Thanks for the question, Chris. I should be sure to see you soon. Jericho Jackson says, "Hey guys, thanks for the advice 2 weeks ago, Jamie. I forgot to stay in the loop on your vid, and I think I might have just commented on James's or something. That's fine, I answered them both. We answered them all in the previous week's question. Speak friend question. Anyway, do you think with Ordicon you're going to stick with the VP system used at Nova, which gave a score out of 10 for each game, or the more traditional use of tournament point systems? Thanks from Jericho." I can't say yet, as James and I are discussing it, and we'll get everything out to you once we have sorted it all. Next up is Shern Shaw 100. He says, "Is Gandalf the Grey on cart any good? Thinking of including him in a Hobbit army. Well, he's not bad, but I think on Shadowfax you get a bit more out of him. Yes, the cart stays around for longer, but the 8-inch movement and huge base can leave him in a bit of trouble, as when he is charged, he only gets 1 attack. But it does increase the range of Blinding Light, so it has got its bonuses. Good luck, and let us know how it goes in that Hobbit army." Next up, we have Larry Miller. He says, "Firstly, Jamie, it is a common misconception that flying off fly makes a model move 6 inches. The FAQ in fact states that they retain their regular move value. They merely move like an infantry model, so no going over stuff. It's good to see the Deadliest Warband make a return. Who do you reckon will take it this time?" Ooh. Who do I reckon I'll take it this time? Isengard is still in with a good chance, I reckon. The Reavers, if they make an appearance, will obviously be a contender. I have not released certain videos, so I can't say who's in or out. So yeah, you just have to watch. I'm thinking that I might have been thinking of a dragon when I thought of Fly and Floy. Never mind. Next up is War. He says, another great episode, fellas. Nice seeing last week's guest. Alright, this week's Looper. List your top 3 scum of the earth movies that an SPG player... Oh, movies. List your top 3 scum of the earth moves that an SPG player could or has done. Examples include, I was going to say this, adding axes to all their models. Not to all, but I have done it to my roses. Being a rules lawyer, sloppy movement, etc. Okay. Yeah, sloppy movement can be frustrating, especially when your opponent picks up a model and moves it very quickly. The best thing to do is call them on it early in the game so that they're aware that you're watching their movement. And something that I've not got any to hand, but something that's become really sort of useful for me in wargaming is using the sort of plastic measuring tools or measuring widgets as they become. We use them in Guild Ball a lot, and it means that your movement is definitely X amount of inches. There's no sort of room. There's very little room for error. So yeah, I would agree. Sloppy movement. Rules lawyering, I don't mind so much because I know I've done it myself in the past. In the sense that I'll try and get a benefit from a rule that I think I might find a loop or something. List your top 3 scum of the earth moves that an SPG player could or has done. I guess sort of for me it's like, let's say I'm sure it's purely unintentional and everyone's got it in their mind, and I'm sure I've done it in the past before that's annoyed someone, is when you pick up, let's say you've got a hero and 2 warriors trapping someone, and you pick up 2 coloured dice for one set for the hero and 2 for the other one, and you roll them and you don't say which was the hero's dice, but you know, or your opponent knows what they've in their head rolled it as. They go, oh, I'll might that up. And it's like, was that the one with might attached to it? I didn't know. It's just little things like that. It's just remembering your courtesies to your opponent to let them know what you're rolling for. Oh, that actually reminds me of it. That'll be my other one. Rolling and picking up the dice before you get, before you clearly show your opponent. So let's say you go, boof, roll a 6. And you're like, what? I didn't see. You name it, anything that makes the late Emperor Palpatine look angelic in comparison. Cheers, fellas. And Jamie, I am ex-UK, moved to Canada 11 years ago from Leicester. You escaped. Well done. Next up is 19 Mark F91, the guy from the previous episode. He says, hey guys, thanks for having me over last week. My question is reconnoiter. How do you pronounce it? Reconnoiter or reconnoiter? I pronounce it reconnoiter. I think I use both, but I don't actually know which is the correct pronunciation. Thanks and happy strategy battle gaming. I think both. Actually, I'll tell you what. Can I type it into Google and get them to announce it for me?
Reconnoiter.
See if you can hear this. I'll put my volume up.
Reconnoiter. 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 Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter. Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter.
Reconnoiter. There's that answer. There's that question answered. Next up is CratoCam. He says, hi guys, thank you for the answer last week. Seems that I am in the loop now. This week I have 2 questions about passengers. Is the passenger rule allowed in tournaments? No, it is an optional scenario rule. I would love to use my Gimli Legolas on horse in the future. Is it possible to deploy on the board as a passenger to avoid the jump test? I have no idea. I don't use the passenger rules. But they're not allowed in tournaments would be your answer to that. I would think that yes, you should be allowed to deploy as a passenger.
Reconnoiter.
Next up is Dave Egan. He says, loop sustaining questions, not SPG related. Who is your favourite character or characters in Game of Thrones, alive or dead? Dave Egan says, mine are Jon Snow, the Hound, Arya and Tyrion. If Game of Thrones had its own version of SPG, what profile and stats would you give the following? Jon Snow, the Hound and Oberyn Martell. Lastly, what do you think will happen with the Jon Snow? I still don't know if it's spoiler time or not, because I know I've not watched season 5, but I've read the book, so I know what happens. You say, is he X, is he Y, or is he Z? I'm going with Z. You can remember that from your own question. As for stats for Jon Snow, I think Jon would be fight 5, strength 4 as a hero, probably defense 5 in his ranger gear, maybe 3 attacks. No, it seems too much. 2 attacks, 2 wounds. 3 might, 2 will, 1 fate. Why not? Seems like a decent profile. Next up, the Hound. I'd probably give him... Oh, if Jon Snow had any special rules, he'd get sort of woodland creature or something like that. Yeah, woodland creature. For the Hound, I have him be fight 6, strength 5, defense 7. Yeah, he's pretty armoured up. Defense 7, 3 attacks, 3 wounds. Oh, Jon Snow's can be courage 6. So the Hound will be courage 5. Probably 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate. But he'd also have burly and a 2-handed sword. And Oberyn Martell would be fight 6, because he's actually the same as the Hound. Strength 4, defense 4 probably. 3 attacks, 3 wounds, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate, why not? I think he's quite cool. But I'd give him the Hasharin's rules where he can't be trapped. Yeah, that'll do. King Banzai again says, oh, my favourite characters. God, I can't even remember them all. I'm ignoring that question. Next up we got King Banzai. He says, I don't know if I'm too late, but I think the most thematic battle to show new players is the Battle of Alzimbar. You mean Anzanulzibar? It is the clash between the dwarves and the orcs, and I think it would look great even in just an Azog list versus Army of Thror is great, just as long as both Azog and Thorin are there, and of course Thrain and Thror just adding to the fluff. We've actually been doing these battle reports, which you should hopefully have seen on the channel over the past few weeks, and next week we'll be releasing part 3, because yesterday you got to see, on Friday evening I should say, sorry, you got to see the Rohan versus Goblin Town bat rep, which I've been pestering Damien for a long time. Well, me. I'm drinking Diet Coke again, it's making me burpy. Next up we've got Jürgen Björvik. He says, came by this little problem the other day and was not sure how to do it. Thorin charged Shagrat, and then a warrior variable with axe got in the fight as well, in base contact with Shagrat. Then an orc wanted to charge Thorin. Does the orc break up the fight, so Shagrat only fights the warrior and Thorin fights the orc? Or is it a 2-on-2 fight? It is the first way, so if you had, the orc would essentially pull Thorin out of the fight with Shagrat. So it's why it can be risky sometimes, charging your hero into a hero and then throwing in troops to support, as it allows your hero to be, we call it being peeled off the fight. So that's how you'd solve that one. Next up we got Michael Bojan. He says, short question, Saruman the White on horse or Saruman the Wise? Keep up the good works, lads. I would say Saruman the White on horse because the spellcasting mobility is better than the magic resistance of Saruman the Wise. And number what? I'm not even on a number. Jeremy Smith says, sorry lads, but I've not commented or questioned for a couple of episodes, so here are a few to catch up. Number 1, can you review the order in which the fight phases resolve when both parties have banners and might? For example, an orc rolls a 4 versus the elves 3 highest. Does it matter whom has priority, who spends might first? No, it wouldn't. So the emphasis is on the elf to declare he's using might, and then the orc will say he's declaring to use might. I believe what should happen is that if you both want to spend might, you're meant to keep it a secret and reveal. So the orc might spend 2 to boost up to 6, and the elf boosts 1 to go up to 4, like that kind of thing. However, what normally happens is you both settle on something. But that's what should be done, I believe, or at least it was in Lord of the Rings. Number 2, if my monster with spear support wins a fight, can I strike with the spear first, then use a brutal power attack with the monster? If the spear strikes first and kills it, then no. So you might want, if you're planning to hurl it, you may want to hurl first before you do the spear. Number 3, if my archer is part of a heroic march and may move a total of 9 inches but only moves 4.5, can he still shoot? Yes, he can. If so, can he also be a part of a heroic shoot? Yes, he can, because it's a separate phase. So yeah. Number 4, if my orc warrior with a shield is supported by another orc warrior with shield and spear, can I declare shielding with both? If so, how many dice do I roll? Both have base 1 attacks. So when you shield, you don't get any support bonuses at all, so you'd only get 2 dice. And finally, pizza is always better than burgers. Even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. Thanks, that's all for this week. First Ager Smith signing off. I would agree with you there. Next up, or penultimately, we've got Dr. Dan. He says, I'm planning on attending my first ever Hobbit SBG event if I can get the tickets at East Grinstead's An Unexpected Desolation of the Five Armies. I was wondering if you may take a look at my army list and tell me what you think, as I'm hoping to be a bit fluffy but also not get trounced every game. The list is a Saviours of Gondor list. That's the theme we're going for. So we've got Beregond with 7 Guard of the Fountain Court with shield, Forlong, hopefully on horse, if it's allowed, because he's got the unreleased miniatures version. I'm sure Sam will be cool with that, just message him directly. 6 Foot Knights of Delamroth with 6 Axemen of Lossarnach, Elladan and Elrahir with heavy horse and armour, with 3 Rangers with spear, 6 Rangers, and 3 Rangers of the North. 600 points, 13 might, 35 models overall, and you have got 3, 6, 9, 12 bows, and a nice line. I think that could do quite well. You've got a good fighting line, you've got very good heroes in Elladan and Elrahir, Forlong mounted, and you've got lots of cheap might with Beregond and your 3 Rangers to call heroic moves. I think that'll do quite well. Best of luck, Dr. Dan. And finally, the Commander Kaiser. Only 23 questions this week, and it's been me answering them on my own, and as you might see, the video's a little bit shorter. He says, hey guys, my question this week is, are there any models that you regret not buying before they went out of production? I took a break from a few years ago from Lord of the Rings, and it seems that was the time all the now expensive stuff seemed to have come out. Yes, I regret not buying a Gildor when I got one, but I very kindly got one off Mr. Ratchford. Gildor here, painted up. Hooray! We're going anything before going out of production. No, not really. I pretty much bought all the heroes that I wanted and things. Occasionally from time to time I think, I wish I'd have bought X, Y or Z, but there's nothing that I really regret not being able to buy or get my hands on. I'm sure as time goes on and more stuff goes out of production, I'll think, God damn it, I wish I'd bought that thing. Probably Candish. If there was any one thing that I missed out on, it was Candish. And that is that for this week's Speak Friendly Question. We managed to do this in under half an hour, so good going for me. Sorry for you guys, you don't get to spend so much time painting to this video, and you had to put up with my monotone voice for the entire thing, so apologies again. Please do get your questions in, as James will be back next week. We have scheduled in the chance at the time on a Friday to do the Mordor sourcebook review and Speak Friendly Question, so you'll have some videos from us both coming again soon, as we intend to start trying to make a bit more content together again, as we have become a little bit fragmented recently with our sort of doing our own bits and bobs. As ever guys, be sure to comment, like, share and subscribe. Support your Hobbit host by clicking the links below. Support your Hobbit hobby and happy strategy battle gaming, and like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Bye everyone.